first couple seconds whether
You're here right now. This is very ever handsome Greg Siskin. Thank you everybody for joining us today. We didn't want to wait till this evening, mostly because we got another thing we've got to file today.
Oh my
God. I mean, it's just crazy.
Like those 80s video games where they are just shooting and you're dodging, trying to
it's just I think
what this administration feels like for an immigration lawyer.
Well, it is. It's just like, hey, what can we drive the agreement? Crazy. Most people don't know this, but on last Friday, the administration published a rule that says on Monday we're raising our premium processing fee.
Yeah.
On Monday, so it had to be everything had to be postmarked before Monday. And that came out at 4:00 in the afternoon.
They must just laugh at the immigration lawyers that they know when they do this kind of stuff and what kind of reaction it's going to get. I think they do it more for fun.
Yeah. Well, we had I think Jeff did a fantastic job today. I'm sorry you couldn't see him. He looked good. So that you know, Jeff does not have the COVID. It appears his wife does, though. So Jeff is living in the basement for the next 2 weeks of his house. But he was up and fit and moving forward today. So I did a good job. Greg, can you tell us what happened today?
All right. So today, the purpose of today's hearing was this is not the trial that happens sort of later in the case, but this is actually more important today. This is the preliminary injunction hearing. And what we were trying to demonstrate to the judge today is you need to take action now rather than waiting until you have a trial, because people are suffering harms right away, and it's likely that we are going to win. And that if you don't do anything today, people are going to have irreparable damage. That was our task for today. So, I don't think we have a whole lot of concern about the irreparable harm. The question is largely whether the judge agrees that we're likely to win later on. So we were focusing on some of the big arguments today. And the judge was, at the beginning, I think he was a little confused, and we know that and we think that was largely because of the defendants' ways that they shaped their arguments, where they were tackling basically an argument that we were not making, which was that we were trying to take down the proclamations altogether. So once we kind of cleared that issue up, I think that it went pretty much according to the way we were hoping. And basically, it came down to two big issues. One is whether the proclamations itself, which, again, we were not saying that the proclamation was illegal. What we were saying was that banning visas based on the proclamation.
Yeah.
Right. The visas themselves, you can't ban that. With the proclamations ban entry. That's what 212F does.
And interrupt you there. It was interesting that Carrilli made the argument that the proclamation banned visa issuance. The proclamation says literally no such thing.
Right. He said that president banned visas. And you're like, okay, well, where's that? Right. So that was one problem. And then the other part of it, which was we'll talk a bit about, is the unreasonable delay argument, whether for all the non-proclamation folks as well as the proclamation folks, whether we could demonstrate that there has been unreasonable delay, particularly given the pandemic. So, those are the two issues that it boils down to in this case. I think it went well. Chuck, maybe you can talk a little bit about what you think that the judge's reaction was to those arguments, as well as some people may be wondering about this document that we have to prepare for tomorrow, what that's all about, and what we're working on for that. So we actually we have some work. We're not completely done with our arguments until the judge makes the decision. But maybe you can talk a little bit about those issues.
Yeah. First, the judge, obviously, as Greg noted, he was just confused, and that's not our doing. I thought our pleadings were pretty straightforward, especially our reply. He clearly is not going to overturn Judge Mehta's district decision. So,
well, we hope.
Well, generally speaking, a district court judge does not make law for their district, generally speaking.
Right.
But something like this, where it appears to be a legitimate decision, and the government misrepresenting the fact that, hey, Mehta didn't know about this stuff. Mehta absolutely knew about all that stuff.
They made those same arguments.
It made all the same arguments. So that was actually kind of frustrating that, well, just because Mehta didn't refer to them doesn't mean he didn't know about them. they're just not relevant. You can't make the word entry mean something it doesn't. I think clearly he's going to rule that they have to issue the visas. They can't use the hands.
I think you're right. I just wanted to clarify. There's like nothing's 100% guaranteed in this world, but I feel pretty good about that too.
Yeah. So the next part of this is, and you can tell the judge was concerned. He can't order the government to say open that consulate and process the visa. He can't do, and he understands that he can't do that. But he's also was very interested in the part of the argument that Jeff brought up, that Judge Mehta saw that they weren't following his order. They weren't issuing the visas, so he had to jump in and do that. So he's looking for a way to craft an order. This is what I think is going to happen. To craft an order that, while if not following the 30-day guideline in both the law and the FAM, certainly suggests that states should get off their duff and get people in and process through the National Visa Center as quickly as possible. The one thing that Jeff did not have, one of the things when you're arguing, and it's like anything else, you are focused. You are just focused on this. And if there's one thing dangling in your head that you got to talk about, but just won't come out your mouth, but you afterward you go, oh, why didn't I say that? There was a couple of those things for Jeff. For example, it wasn't 0.3%, it was 0.03%, which we'll make clear in our additional file, which is great. Why it's great that the judge gives us an opportunity to supplement the record in this case. But what I think he's going to do, this is just my best guess, is he's going to tell state, look, if you got visas, if you people are at consulates right now, one, if they need visas reissued, do that within 10 days, 20 days. We're going to ask them to set a time frame.
Those people don't even need to be re-interviewed, so they don't have even that argument to them.
Second, if you have people's files sitting at your consulate, I would expect you to either make good faith efforts to get those people interviewed, or, and again, we'll bring this up in our, I don't know, I could call it a SIR reply or something on their briefing, that they could transfer them to a consulate that is issuing visas. That's relatively close by. Right. The third thing, which I'm not sure he's going to do, is set a time frame. But what he already said, and his closing was, I'm keeping jurisdiction of the case, and we're going to have further hearings on what state's doing. And that's vitally important, because that's how we were able to get the DV case finally.
He was kind of joking about that he was like, he knows he's going to have to deal with this for a while.
Yeah.
I agree with all that. If I had, and I think, we were going to hit home this argument, is the state is basically making an argument that, they're making a public health argument as far as why they can't finish up these cases. And one of the things we're going to point out is that is one very, it's not minor, but it's basically just one step in the whole case is the actual interview with the applicant at the end. And they're not working on any of this stuff along the way. There is no COVID excuse for the National Visa Center not to be adjudicating these things. There's no COVID excuse for examiners not to be working these cases and getting them all the way up to the interview point. And then when a window opens up, when the consulates are functioning, and they are functioning, and we're going to make that point, they need to be working on it. So the COVID excuse is really, I think, not a winner.
And I think the judge got that correct.
We're able to document that that's just one aspect of the whole case, and they're not working on any of the other stuff either.
And I think he got that, Greg, because he kept asking, so why aren't you doing it so when it stops, they can just come in or they can just interview them? He clearly and clearly had no response to that. Judge, he understands the National Visa Center's got a part to play here too. So why aren't he sending the cases? Well, they're not sending because the consulate's not asking for them, and the NBC is not pushing them to do it. This is where discovery, and Jeff mentioned discovery later on, we're going to ask them to explain to the court why they, where is their documentation about K-1s and why aren't we seeing that? In fact, we may maybe even ask after Friday, maybe file a motion with the court to ask for the administrative record on K-1s.
We have this case is because we did we made that motion in the Ocker case. And we discovered that they were not doing any work on the K-1s, and we had been hearing from K-1s, and we were thinking about it, and that was sort of like a smoking gun that got us here. You can find a lot of very interesting things when you get the administrative record. So we'll see, on that as well. Now, hopefully, that's not going to. The judge said in 2 weeks.
Right.
That's sort of a hopefully on there. But as far as like when to put it in your calendar for 2 weeks, if we happen to get it earlier than that, then great. But that's what the judge had told us today to expect.
Now, here's what I know, that we have some math whizzes in this group. So here's the deal. We know about the 0.03%. We know, so we looked at the September CAC numbers, and 0.03% were issued, 361 or something issued K-1 visas throughout the world. We would love a little help, honestly, because there's a lot of lawyers here, but there's 1,000 things going on. Here's what we need to know.
Math degrees. We have a lot of degrees.
We need to compare March through September of 2020 to math through September of 2019, 2018, and 2017. I want to give the judge some context over the last several years, Greg, of how many, and this is important, family-based immigrant visas. These are the FB visas, or including the IR visas in total. So we want to say, okay, within this 6-month period, or 7 months, however long that happens to be, in 2019, the consulates around the world issued 140,000 family-based visas, and during that same time, they issued X thousand K-1s. Mm-hmm. We want to show the court that they are not on the percentage, and this is why this is important. In 2020, they are not issuing any family-based visas.
Right.
Between March to September, other than immediate military.
They're playing a bit of a game today.
It's about capacity.
They're comparing their numbers to non-immigrant numbers. Non-immigrants are not banned. In fact, they in the NAM case, even the categories that were banned are not banned anymore. So it's going to look a lot better for them when they say they're trying to argue the ratio of K-1s to other non-immigrant categories is normal, which it's not. No. Even if you're comparing to NIVs, but that's not the comparison, because the K-1 cases, even though they have a similar numbering system, even though technically they're non-immigrant visas, they are not adjudicated by the non-immigrant visa sections. They are adjudicated by the immigrant visa section. So the appropriate comparison is to K-1s to immigrant visas that were issued during the period of time. Chuck was saying, I think what we'd like is to actually see a couple of different spreadsheets. Right. One is a comparison to the non-immigrant categories. Another is a comparison to the family immigrant categories. And another is a comparison to all immigrant visas, because the units that the immigrant visa sections that all the consulates around the world are working, there's the same people are working DVs, employment-based, family-based. And what we want to show is that they have a lot of capacity to be working on the K-1 cases. It's not simply
Andy Abbott, who has clearly not enough things to do on his hand, has asked, so which ones are there on the CAC list? All right. These would be CR1s, which is conditional residence, anything that starts with an F, okay, F31, F32, 30, anything that starts with an F, and any IR. So CR, F, IR. Those are the ones you want to look at to compare apples to apples, and that's what we want to do. And we want to look back over each. We don't need it by month, although that's how they have the statistics. Although I think they do have an overall year-by-year number as well, which would make this easier. We also want help cherry picking a couple of consulates that help us. We don't have to cherry pick the ones that don't help us. We want to cherry pick where you're from. Okay, so if you want to look at Croatia, okay, look at Croatia. Here's what they did in the last 7 years. And so it's really, really important. So Andy's got it. So if anybody wants to help out with that by tonight, if you can just forward over to Jeff, Greg, and I by email your analysis, we can incorporate that into the process. The good news is, while the judge wanted this tomorrow, we're trying to get a preliminary injunction filed tonight in a wildly complicated case. So it might be Monday before we file it, but I think we'd like to file it tomorrow if we can, just to make the judge happy. Somebody said F visas. Okay, F visas, these are F followed by a number in the immigrant.
We're talking about family-based immigrant category.
Not
That's one student visas.
Yeah,
that's the non-immigrant section.
Different F. So F with a number after it, like 31, 32, 12. That's what we're looking for. So yeah, in London, we've got a lot of people in London. Cherry pick that stuff. So anyway, we could use your help on that. That would be actually terrific. You've been really super helpful so far.
And so what's going to happen is after we submit this, then the government basically is going to have like a business day after. If we get this in tomorrow, they have till Monday to get a response. If we get it in by Monday, presumably they'll have till Tuesday. Yeah,
or Wednesday, because I'm giving them the weekend and stuff. So, but you know, they're scrambling right now because once they have not been comparing apples to apples. When they see our apple to apple comparison, and they'll say, well, you're not issuing any visas. So these, I mean, it's like 0% in comparison. And you appear to have a lot more capacity than you've ever had before. We also will, I think we'll probably also reemphasize, Greg, in our filing, some of the declarations from folks about people working. They're actually working at these consulates. And I think that helps us a great deal. So that's kind of.
Chuck, I wonder also we probably may want to present some data showing that they're not working on immigrant visas. They are working on NIVs. And so they have they're making this COVID argument that they don't have the capacity to work on it. And I think what we'd want to show maybe is that the breakdown IV processing to NIV processing, the ratios there demonstrate that this is a political question rather than a public health question, because that ratio should be largely tracking together. If they have, if they have a public health issue, they're interviewing across all these categories, both of those numbers should be declining at the same ratio. And we want to show that IV processing has declined way more than NIV processing, and that's happening for political reasons, not public health reasons.
Now, Greg, as far as I know, there is not a National Visa Center statistics page. I'm not aware of anything that reflects how many cases are pending at the National Visa Center. Are you?
No.
No, I'm not. If anybody, I mean, if that exists, I don't think it does. That would be.
It probably does exist somewhere. I've just never seen it.
I've never seen it either. I'm on their visa statistics page. It's certainly not. Certainly not broad there. It might be within one of their deeply buried in one of their annual reports.
If anybody can find, if we can source hunting that down, that would be helpful.
Yeah, I'm just kind of looking at it right here. I don't see anything referencing the National Visa Center or the NVC here. It's just all visa issued kind of stuff. So again, we're playing with a handicap deck because we don't have all the numbers where they do. All right, Greg, there are not that many questions here. Just a couple notes. Let me go forward here. Thank you, everybody, for the very kind notes that are here. We are great. We greatly appreciate giving the chance to represent you. I'm actually celebrating my 36th wedding anniversary next month, so I know how important it is to be married. So we want to get you guys in here. Somebody jumped on about H-1Bs. I'm really sorry. It's not an H-1B call. It says you come in another phone call. So when the decision comes in, is there another call? No, the judge will just publish it, and we'll get notice right away that something's on Pacer. We'll link in, we'll get it, and then we'll disseminate it to everybody right away, and likely have a call that same day. We'll call you and we'll do a Zoom call afterwards so you can all see that. Somebody said, how could they say they're not processing the Trump events, but they're processing the same percentage? Yeah. Stop trying, Melissa, to use logic. This is the law. This is not logic, which is probably why the judge was so confused. He's probably thinking, I'd love to do the Google case. I don't know, by the way, what the judge was talking about at the end. Google is getting sued for antitrust violation by the Trump administration.
It's a 10-year case.
That was signed. And that's a multi-decade piece of nightmarish litigation. So you wouldn't want to be on that.
That's Judge Maida's new full-time job for the next decade.
What about the argument of the rate of being issued compared to the total non-being? Yeah, again, this is what we're asking, Sabrina, for you guys to do. Help us do. All right. I like to remind clients, I went to law school, not math school. So any help with math is greatly appreciated. Mo, this is actually great. If you were denied on 212F ground, that's a DV. We're not gonna.
No, we're talking about K-1s today.
So maybe could rather.
By the way, those of you who jumped on, we had arguments in the K-1 case today, Milligan versus Pompeo. That's what we call this, just to do a recap on that case.
Right. So yeah, again, the conversation was confusing because it was confusing, and it was confusing because the government gave one set of numbers that weren't a legitimate comparison. And that's why we're gonna come back with the real numbers from their data and attach as exhibit their data and say, Judge, you can do the math too. Here's what we did, kind of stuff. 51 fiancé visas issued in Montreal last year, 7 this year, after becoming a priority. Exactly right. And again, we don't want to just look at September. We want to, because many of you have been waiting for a year. You've been waiting for a year for your visa. So we have to go back and say, look, this is what they were doing last year during this time. And that's just not happening right now as part of this. Chances of the decision having positive effect on non-plaintiffs. This is not a class action. All right. Now, if the judge says, look, you can't use 212F to deny visas, that doesn't need a class action certification. That's the second time a federal court judge would have told them that. And if you are denied a visa if we get a decision on that, and they still deny a non-plaintiff that, then you can call us. All right.
Yeah, that's actually, I mean, I think that's an important point to emphasize. There's two aspects to this case. There's one aspect that is very plaintiff specific, and that is the unreasonable delays in each one of their cases. The other aspect of it potentially benefits everybody, not just even in the K-1 category on there. If you heard the arguments today, Jeff said 212F should never be used as a reason to deny a visa for any category. So, it's possible that the judge will just outright say that in the order, in which case it'll say, basically apply to all K-1s, but it could potentially apply to everybody else as well. And we're keeping our fingers crossed on that.
Yeah, I'm not sure that they would appeal that order right away. I don't think they want an appeals court decision that says that. Because they have, in fact, used this for decades to deny visas, but nobody's challenged it because they haven't applied it to every damn person in the world before. Right. So, Ron, yeah, I mean, and actually, it was the judge that brought the NVC up here, and I thought Jeff.
I wonder what you think as far as appeals go. If it turns out that I guess it's still under Trump's control, the Justice Department, until January 21st. But it is possible that this ruling happens after. He said it within in 2 weeks. That could be after the election on there, which is 12 days away, and there may be a different attitude in the Justice Department about what they're going to do with these cases, on appealing and all that when they're going to be under new management in a couple months.
Greg, from your mouth to God's ears. But I'm not believing it until I see it in black and white.
Well, I'm just laying out that possibility. I mean, it also is possible that they will appeal the hell out of everything, knowing that that they're going to be gone, and they may hope for good decisions.
But they would have to get a stay. They would have to get a stay from the judge on the case, and we will fight that like hell. So I just don't see that happening.
Yeah.
Tenemos una pregunta aquí en español, Jorge. Hoy no estamos hablando de la DD 2020, es de una llamada de la.
Wait, that's not.
Sorry, I had to answer. It was about a DV. All right, so, and Greg, how's your Yiddish, Greg? Yiddish at all? I know he speaks Russian. We can.
I only know enough from my grandparents that they're very, very basic.
I grew up in New York, so I speak a little Yiddish. From my German grandparents. All right. Let's see any other questions here. Someone tell Roy to get his calculator out. Roy already said.
Roy actually has work to do right now. He's probably not online.
All right. Let's see. I'm kind of scrolling down here. Oh, Andy Abbott has all the data in a reporting engine. Oh my gosh.
All right, Andy, take care.
That picture looks like his engagement picture looks like it was taken in Venice in the Plaza San Marcos. Kind of looks like that. But it is kind of looks like that. Okay, Brittany's also got a spreadsheet. These guys are just. I love you guys. Let's see. Being processed. Let's see. London. A lot of.
Oh, there's Roy.
Let's see. Manila. We're almost to the bottom here. Natasha, I wonder if it's possible to get the data the amount of K-1 visa applicants show the amount of applications doesn't drop. That actually is a great question. And Greg, you know where USCIS, but they don't, USCIS does not publish monthly statistics, do they?
Statistical yearbook. They have a lot of charts.
So there is, Natasha, a statistical yearbook that I'm actually putting down here below the link. Okay, this is the USCIS statistical yearbook. If it comes up, it's not. It's going to try. There you go. Statistical yearbook. Oh, that didn't post very good. I'm going to post that. I hope that posts. That has the USCIS, because USCIS is the one that issues the K-1 approval notices. So they will have at least, and you can go, they do this every year. They haven't put, well, I guess that's they haven't put FY 2020 up yet. So you can go back and say, look, on average, in the last decade, it's pretty, and I'm going to tell you, it's likely very consistent year for year. There's no reason there would be a lesser number this year. Great point. Let's see. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. Greg, that's it on the questions here. We said we go for half an hour. We got to go back to work here as well. Thank you, everybody. We will send around our filing tomorrow night.
I would tell people on your Facebook group, the K-1 Facebook group, that they can see the recording of this here on Chuck's Facebook page if they didn't have a chance to watch this. Yeah, and Greg, actually, I'll send you the link around, and you can send it to folks. Yeah, Facebook link, and you can send it in the email to everybody. We had 195 people on this call, so we clearly have people that are not members of our lawsuit listening to this. Thank you, guys. Can I iron my wedding dress? You iron wedding dresses? Hold on. All right. Hey, we'll see what say in 2 weeks. By the way, I do have the shirt. I should have put it onto the car. See, I've got the shirt as well. All right. I was going to wear it in the hearing today, but that might have been, judge might have asked me to take that shirt off. So, you guys have a great day. We'll talk to you soon. Hey, see you later.